Good morning, everybody. On behalf of Vetiva Capital Management and our media partners at Frontier Africa Reports, we would like to thank you for joining us on our breakfast meeting this morning. It is Tuesday, the 15th of June, 2021. As always, this meeting is being recorded and is also being streamed live on our Vetiva online page on Facebook. The audio file may be shared with third parties. The meeting is set to last for 30 minutes, inclusive of Q&A, and this will be done after all speakers have had a chance to go. On our agenda today, we'll get a rundown of the equity and fixed income markets from our traders for those respective spaces, after which we will conclude with Temple Osaju from Frontier Africa Reports with their updates. We will now start off with Shewum and we will now start with Amorige and the fixed for fixed income and currencies. Good morning, Amorige.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'll be taking the update for the Nigerian fixed income market for Friday. I'll start with the money market. The money market is still very liquid. There was significant improvement in system liquidity on Friday. Our system opened about 192.21 billion positive as against the 55 billion negative that was recorded on Thursday. Despite the significant improvement in system opening figures, on Friday, interbank tightened by over 500 basis points to trade around 22% levels on Friday from the 17% levels recorded on Thursday. The uptick in rates was on the back of the increased funding pressure as players had to make provision for the FS retail auction that happened on Friday. We expect that the money market will trade at lower levels today on the back of the reduced funding pressure in the market. Moving on to the FS market, the parallel market remains stable to trade around 502 naira to $1 on Friday, while the earning window traded at around 430 naira to $1, closing at 410.8 naira to $1. That's about 103 cover with the appreciation from where it closed on Thursday. And this was largely due to the slight improvement in earning industry turnover on Friday, as it increased by 3.2% to close at $92.71 million on Friday from the $89.89 million recorded on Thursday. We believe that the Naira will continue to hover around those levels in the absence of any significant inflow of FX into the system. Moving on to the Nigerian Treasury Bills market, the T-bills market closed last week on a quiet note. However, we witnessed some sell-side interest on the long-dated OMO maturities during the early hours of Friday's trading session, and this was largely due to the low system liquidity as some players had to offload their OMO positions to create liquidity. As the trading session progressed, we saw some buy-side interest on the long end of the NTB benchmark of precisely the newly issued one-year NTB paper, as some players tried to feed their immense demand from the NTB auction that happened earlier in the week. Overall, a few trades were consummated across the benchmark curve because of the shortness of cash in the system. Like I earlier said in the money market update, I said the opening figures for Friday was significantly more than what we had on Thursday. But the reason why there was shortness of cash in the system was largely due to the significant funding pressure as players had to fund for the FS retail auction that happened on Friday. That was why some of them were trying to offload their long end OMO maturities just to try to create liquidity. So our expectation for today is that the T-bills market will trade actively as some players try to offload the NTB winnings ahead of the NTB auction that is happening this Wednesday. There's back-to-back NTB auction happening this month because there's the end of the quarter. So that's usually the trend. Moving on to the bonds market, the market closed last week on a quiet note as most investors decided to stay on the sidelines while others traded cautiously on the back of the uncertainty in the market. We witnessed some bearish sentiment on the tail end of the benchmark curve as offers on the 2035, 2045, 2040, and the 2050 maturities picked up slightly. Despite the improved offers seen on the aforementioned maturities, market was not abuzz with a lot of activities as few trades were consummated across the benchmark curve. Overall, rates inched up by 2 basis points on the traded maturities. Our expectation for today is that the bonds market will trade on a quiet note with slightly improved offers on the auction papers. That concludes it for fixed income. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria. We will now move to Sheung from our global equities desk. Good morning, Sheung.
Yeah, good morning, Chidozie, and good morning, listeners. Welcome to the week. So we start off reviewing markets across West Africa. We'll be looking at the Ghana Stock Exchange and the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So we start off in Ghana. The market resumed the new week on a negative note, shedding 67 basis points. We saw significant improvement in the activity level as the volume traded increased by over 500% and the value traded improved by about 59%, which was largely on the back of over 2.4 million units of MTN shares traded. Disappointingly, the trades were largely consummated at a lower price as the loss in MTN and Axis Bank Ghana dragged the index lower. There were no gainers in the relatively quiet session, though the year to date gain still remains at a significantly positive level of about 38.81% in that market. Um, so going for the rest of the week, we expect positive outlook in the medium term, given sustained buying interest across consumer goods, financial, and the telecoms basket in the Ghanaian market. Just like previous sessions, we expect the week to be largely shaped by activities across some of the bellwethers like MTN Ghana as well as Fan Milk Ghana. So we believe that's what the market will look like this week. Um, so quickly, we'll move to Nigeria. Just like the negative close we saw in Ghana, the Nigerian Stock Exchange Osher Index ended the last trading session of last week on a negative note. We saw it dropping 13 basis points on Friday. We saw investors take profit in names like MTN as the counter closed 139 basis point lower. We also saw counters like Nigerian Breweries and Guarantee Trust Bank um, dropping um, dropping some points as well, which all contributed to the negative close we saw on Friday. Despite this dip, investors cherry picked on names across sectors. We saw the likes of Seplat, which moved from 618 naira to close at 690, um, which is on the persistent demand in the name. We've seen persistent demand in that name. We also saw the names like Unilever being cherry picked in the consumer goods, as well as Zenith Bank saw some decent demand um, in the session. So basically, we saw these gainers in the session. Yeah. So sectoral performance, if we look at that, was mixed. We saw three gainers and two other losers, which were the consumer goods as well as the insurance sector. Those two sectors closed lower. And speaking to the level of activity in Friday's session, this improved significantly compared looking at where market is normally. This a 59% significant improvement, which is on the back of trades and the likes of the banks and some oil and gas space as well. As we saw cross trades in Seplat, about 600,000 units of Seplat were traded, and we also saw some trades in Zenith Bank as well. For last week, the Bulls, however, closed in the green. So looking at the week in total, having advanced 111 basis points week on week, as a negative close on Friday couldn't prevent a positive weekly close. The positive close moderated the all share index year to date returned to negative 2.76% now. Yeah, so to some a few company results, we saw corporate actions this week around names like we will see corporate action this week around names like CAP, Julius Berger, International Breweries, Total Nigeria, because they will be having their AGMs as stated in the communications to the Nigerian Exchange Limited. So going into the new week with investor sentiment clearly positive, and looking at previous week's performance and the positive market breadth of 1.41 times in Friday session, though the ASI closed in the red. We expect market to start off in the green as investors cherry pick and they continue to demand for names like Seplat. We believe Nestle, Zenith, among others, will continue to be some of the names investors will be looking at. However, we might see some profit taking as investors book, some profit taking as we go into the later part of the week, as investors book some profit, and then we expect we however expect positive close to the week, while the turnover is also expected to improve. Is also expected to improve. Right trade will move from the average of the 1.5 billion that we saw 2 weeks ago and sometimes last week to maybe about over 2 billion. So those are expectations for the week, and investors can tailor their decision around these high expectation. Thank you very much. That'll be it for the equities market. Do have a great day.
Thank you very much, Sean. We will now move to Sheikh Modub from CGF Burst for their updates. Good morning, Sheikh.
Hello, good morning. This week's BRVM was a very outstanding week in terms of performance. It is just following the trend in the last 4 weeks, where you have 3 out of 4 where the BRVM composite displayed a performance of over 2.72% at 159 basis points. The overall market has finished on the green. The level of transactions compared to last week, where the market was very timid, came back to more normal levels, and it is still expected to grow. This was mainly led by the distribution sector, which includes the automotive and logistic companies that displayed overall plus 14.37%, mainly led with the performance of Cefao Ivory Coast, which was at the core of all debates and exchanges this week. Indeed, Cefao led the market with a overperformance of plus 40.87%, reaching a share price of 810 CFA. This was mainly due to the announcement for the acquisition of Etoile CI from Tractafrique Motors Ivory Coast, who was the exclusive distributor of Mercedes-Benz vehicles in Ivory Coast. The acquisition will allow Cefao to become the leader in automotive distribution in Ivory Coast, with an overall 40% market share to expand its commercial range. Cetao also displayed a good performance with its share price growing by plus 32% in the green. You have also other good performances like Sicor Ivory Coast and SOGB for plus respectively 15.16% and 15% among the top 5 of performers. In terms of the lesser performance, Crown CM displayed an minus 11.11%. So the coming back to normal levels and the lower levels that were displayed in terms of transaction. The same can be said about Nouvelle Edition of Ivoirian, which is the Nouvelle Edition EVIN, yes, which showed a lower share price, down by 7.41%. In terms of this week's highlight, we are expecting the ordinary general meeting of Tract Afrique Motor Ivory Coast on June 24th, where a gross dividend is expected to be distributed, amounting for 1.85 billion CFA, corresponding to 162 CFA net per share for the 2020 for the financial year 2020. SODECI Ivory Coast issued its first quarter activity report, showing a net profit up by 4.1%. Uniwax also has issued a convocation for the ordinary general assembly. It is expected a 231 million CFA gross dividend distribution. For Total, Senegal issued its first quarter activity report. Results from ordinary activities are down by 50%. This was mainly due to a 30% drop in sales on the domestic market following the rampage of gas station early in March due to some political unrest and the resilient effect of the COVID-19. In terms of the bond market, the market closed with a market capitalization slightly up by 2.08%. Where with the listing of the public treasury of Mali for a capitalization of over 150 billion. The weekly value traded stood at 9.03 billion against 3.93 billion last week, still marked by a transaction carried out on the bond loan of the treasury of the public treasury of Ivory Coast, amounting 7.9 billion. In terms of the money market, WAMU states intervened in the money market for a debt raising amounting 160 billions. The investors offered a coverage rate of 282%, however, only 38.71% was absorbed, amounting for 174 billion. The most popular issue was a treasury bill of Burkina Faso for a coverage rate of 314%. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheikh. We will now conclude with Temple Osaju from Frontier Africa Report. Good morning, Temple.
Good morning, all, and welcome back from the holiday. From the southern part of Africa, South Africa is signing an agreement to support its steel industry with some 600 billion rand. There is a council comprising of stakeholders drawn from the public, private sector, and government executives that are involved in the signing of this program, this funding program. Basically, it's to address the steel and metal fabrication master plan that the government has approved with these stakeholders some times ago, and to help them implement it. The master plan really has some 6 key priority areas, including the supply, demand, value chain, and of course AFCFTA, among some other things. In the northern part of Africa, we continue to see mergers and acquisition, monies exchanging hands between corporates and public, the public sector there. Kuwait Insurance is basically looking to set up new life insurance company in Egypt. So they are funding that with 100 million Egyptian pounds. Eptica Financial Services Company is also going public. They're looking to float a lot of people have been waiting for their IPO, which is in the works. So now they've given some kind of a guidance that by the 4th quarter of this year, that will come on stream. In Ghana, we understand some miners are seeking exploration incentives there, perhaps to help them brace up for post-COVID markets and to help them manage their or mitigate the effects of some of the impact of COVID-19 on their business. World Bank is expected to release Nigeria's half-year development reports by 10 a.m. this morning. We will watch out to see what stats has in stock for Nigeria. They have also just injected some $465 million into Nigeria for energy expansion. Sorry, to West Africa, not specifically Nigeria now, but Nigeria inclusive, to the West African region. Basically, a facility to help expand access to renewable energy and broaden the grid and off-grid services or infrastructure that we have across the continent. Naivas is a retail store in Kenya. This is a company that has really, they've got around 71 stores across the country. The IFC is looking to help them improve food safety standards across their stores and across the value chain. The IFC is going to be training some of their staffers, and this partnership will basically lead to establishment of the food safety team and the development of an internal mechanism to monitor and audit food safety practices in the country. The company is also trying to attain the ISO 22000 certification. This partnership will basically help them to realize that. Finally, the Eastern African countries, key countries among them, that includes Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, is expected to spend some 46.4 trillion shillings combined to service their debts. This in the next fiscal year, which they're about to take or to commence next month. Kenya specifically will be doing some 23.4 trillion shillings in debt servicing, and Uganda has 13 trillion to be spent on debt services servicing, while Tanzania, which has the lowest, has some 10.67 trillion shillings to spend in that area. These are some of the headlines we've got to share this morning. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Temple. We have now come to the question and answer portion of the meeting. If you would like to speak, you can raise your hand and we will ask you to unmute yourself so that you may ask your question, or you may use the Q&A box or the chat box for your question if you prefer that. And for those joining us on Facebook, you may leave a comment and we will treat it as well. Thank you. I see that we have no questions today. So we've come to the conclusion of our meeting. On behalf of Vetiva Capital Management and our media partners at Frontier Africa Reports, we would like to thank you all for joining us today. If over the course of the day you do have a question, don't hesitate to send us an email at research@vetiva.com and we will respond as quickly as possible. We continue to encourage everyone to keep safe and we look forward to having you join us again tomorrow morning at 8:30. Goodbye.